Hello and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday with me, Ryan, aka Mac. This is a weekly show which covers everything from the world of Star Citizen over the past week. Links to everything discussed can be found in the description below, so let's get on with it. This week we take a cool look at atmospheric flight planetside, hear and see more about the Reliance flight modes, plus check out GrimHex's clothing line. But as mentioned before, Star Citizen will be having their 4th annual party at Gamescom. I've bought my ticket with the intention of going, and I plan to make a vlog plus live stream parts of it like I did when I was at BritizonCon and at CitizenCon in 2015. I have set up a donation goal of £400, which is what I expect it will cost to cover the flights, the hotel and the food for the event. Just make sure that I'm comfortable and safe. The intentions of this goal is not to beg for money, it's more to give the option to those who can and want to help me get there to do so. I do intend to save the money myself, however with the date being so very close, I very much doubt I'll be able to. So if you want to help me get there, I have a link in the description which will send you to my donation page. 400 is pretty much the total it will cost me, but even if I don't reach the full amount, I'll hopefully be able to top it up myself. And if for some reason I don't get to go, I will refund all the donators. All help will be greatly received, and I shall do my utmost to show off the event to those who cannot make it. Obviously, if you cannot donate, then that is perfectly fine. It is purely for those who are able to and feel comfortable to. Thank you. So, Sandy and Chris Roberts kicked off Around the Verse Season 3 Episode 1. This is the new format to show us more, and they will rotate between each studio. Each episode will also show us sort of more production plus a deep dive on a certain aspect of Star Citizen. They mentioned that they wrapped up the last of the PCAP shoot. Squadron 42 now has 1,255 pages of script, which is 3 times more than Wing Commander 4 did. 2.5 has gone to the Avocado people, the Evacoti early PTU testers. Hopefully it'll get sorted within the next few days, and this next coming week we'll get it onto the PTU so we can stream it and show it off, and then get it to the live servers. Also, there's a lot of work on other stuff, and they're excited to show us this at Gamescom. We don't know what. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some of the Star Marine at Gamescom, because that is supposed to be in the next patch after 2.5. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, the LA studio update with Eric Kieran Davis. First of all, they started talking about atmospheric flight, and this is very, very cool. So when you go down to planet, or you transition from space to planet side, there will be an atmosphere that they are now implementing. What's really cool about this is the more aesthetically sort of aerodynamic ships will take better advantage of the atmospherics and maneuver better. Obviously, the less aerodynamic ships will suffer more drag, lose more speed, and just lack maneuverability, which is just amazing. They can tune each ship individually, so they are doing, and the closer that you get to a planet, the atmospheric density will increase, plus include variations, so varying wind and turbulence. The ship's max safe speed decreases as the atmosphere increases, so do pay attention to velocity and altitude, otherwise you can cause damage. And if a ship blows off a wing or any part of the ship, then the drag forces in the surface area will change dynamically, which is just insane. Anyway, they said the goal is not to create aircraft, obviously it's more to take into account drag and lift to change how they feel in atmosphere. Every ship will feel different. The Gladius, for example, is very aerodynamic and will feel like an actual aircraft, whereas others just feel like a bus. Also, they'd like to make it so that different materials will affect it too, but they haven't addressed into what that is right now. They're just going to get this in first implementation, get it in there, and then address those later. So from there, we had an animation update. The first ships for the enter and exit speeds, or the changes to the speed, are going to be the Hornet, the Super Hornet, and the Freelancer. They're also working on life animations, as we know, so behind the bar, sitting in chairs, leaning against the walls, anything that will give the planet life. From there, we saw the male base model update after finishing the female sculpt, which we know they've just finished the female character, but they wanted to give the same level of quality to the male, so they're now focusing on that, but specifically the hands, because this is a first-person game and it needs to look solid. Also, the character will be a bit more fit, as it's sort of ex-military. The majority of them are ex-military characters. So back to Sandy and Chris Roberts. They say the free fly has finished. There will be another one, so don't worry. I expect Gamescom will bring another one. BritizonCon, they mentioned BritizonCon, and I saw a picture of me! Also, the Austin Bar Citizen was very successful, and they had a lot of fun. Gamescom party tickets have gone on sale. I've got mine. I'll be addressing this later on in the show. And finally, the Big Benny's t-shirt and patches are back on sale after high demand. They also have them in varying sizes, so if you are a small, I think it's extra 2 small, or extra small times 2, or an extra large times 2, something along those lines, do check them out. The link will be below. So we had a ship shape, and this week it was looking at the Reliant. As we know, it's coming to 2.5. It is one of the Jean Tech influenced, like the Scout, And they say something you might not notice is that the thrusters have a reverse thruster, sort of a retro thrust, which when in vertical mode will be used to slow you down. But when in horizontal, obviously these are covered by the wings, so they'll have flaps instead, which you'll be able to see open up. And with it being locked to pre when you're in horizontal mode, which is for landing basically, then these flaps will counter that. So you're not going to be going too fast. Plus, they say that you won't accidentally flip onto your roof. They've made sure that won't happen. But once you've taken off in horizontal mode, you hit the N key, and that will change into vertical mode and give you the full flight mode with quantum and so forth. They did say that you cannot get out of your seat in vertical mode. You'll have to be in horizontal. But they did say they may change this later, depending on how they see fit. The MVP this week is Glentor Enzo for creating reference cards to help learn the new control scheme. Very, very cool. Again, links in the description. And finally, the behind the scenes, we're looking at GrimHex clothing. They say it's going to be grungier and dirtier, sort of darker saturated colours. It'll be different compared to Kasaba, so you can express yourself more. They will add in-game wear and dirt as players continue to wear them over time. But they're introducing more to the lore here, so things like the Lidos and Gutter Wash are actually in-game bans, which I didn't know before. They will keep building on this. This is basically just the starting point for all the locations. Each location will have its own unique look and be recognisable. So if you go to a different planet or system wearing a t-shirt from GrimHex or from this area, maybe it'll be more Nick system, then they will know where you've bought it from, possibly know what kind of person you are. Anyway, that was ATV. The new style is very, very cool. I do like this show more atmospheric flight that's got me all hyped again. I really want to just get down onto a planet. Anyway, tell me your thoughts. Let's get on to RTV. So the latest Reverse the Verse, it was 30 minutes long rather than the usual hour long, and it was hosted by Eric Kieran Davis. And it sounds like what they're going to do for every Around the Verse, whatever studio they're at, the RTV will be at the same studio, and they're just going to talk about the topics discussed in Around the Verse. So we started off with Steve Bender, who's the animation director, talking more about the PU Life animations. He said it feels like you're actually in the world. You will see things in the clubs and the bars, for example, things that are common to these places, so people eating, people drinking, bartenders doing things, etc, etc. Plus there'll be different levels of energy of the animations, so it gives the illusion of life. So at the middle of the day, the animations will be subdued, people will be having lunch and so forth. Then at night time, it'll get more lively, there'll be dancing, there'll be drunk people. He says the world lives and breathes through the animation. So they had a little Q&A for this. First one being, can we speed up and slow down the enter-exit while in the animation? This is when you're entering your ships. Now they say the goal is to utilise the walk modifier. So the first one is when you climb into your ship in sort of a relaxed pace. It's going to be faster than what it is now because it is still just ridiculously slow. But then if you hold the shift or the sprint modifier, you'll speed up in an emergency way, so you'll get out as if you're having to get out for a reason. And it's the same for getting in as well. But when you're getting out, if your ship will be sort of imminent to explode, you'll need to get out quick. Now when it comes to changing the pace during the animation, they say there's no piece of tech to allow that yet, which doesn't mean it won't be possible in the future, but for now they're just getting all the speeds in first, and once done they'll try to modify it in play. Personally, I think it needs to be in, because if you look at Battlefield or any other game, when you're climbing a ladder, if you hold down the shift key, you will climb that ladder faster. Now I know the animations for climbing or getting into ships and out of ships are sort of static ones, so you press it once and then it plays out. The problem is if you approach a ship and you're just casually about to start getting into your ship because you don't feel there's any danger, it could be an ambush and someone could start firing upon you. Now the problem is, in reality, you would then speed up naturally because you are in a panic trying to get out of your or trying to get into your ship. Whereas if you have already pressed the button, then you have to let that animation play out, and if you did choose the wrong one, it could be quite life-threatening. But that's my personal opinion. Hopefully they will change it. I do feel it's quite necessary. Next question is, will the player's head be fixed to the enter and exit animation, or can we look around? And they said there's no reason why this could not be executed. It'll be great for players with virtual reality, of course. They need to support that. So once they've got the enters in officially, then they will look to add it later. Next question, are players able to do the life animations that we see the NPCs doing? And he says there's nothing to stop you doing it now, it's just more of a high-level design question. Same for emotes, we have emotes already where you can sort of choose what you want to do. But he says you will want to be able to choose the emotes you want to choose, so things like the way you salute may be your classic American style, or it could be the British Army style. It'll all depend on how you want to play the game. Final question for the animation. Can you interrupt social animations, or do they need to roll out fully? And he says that if you can't escape them, it can probably become exhausting having to watch it play out. But he says the problem is if you give the ability, then people will just keep popping in and out of these animations, and it will look a bit gamey. So they want to get the balance right so that it has the playability and functionality, but they don't want it to be so that every player is sort of jerking around when they decide they don't want to do that anymore. So it's all about balance. We will see. Anyway, from there we met Elwin Batchelor Jr., who has worked on the Reliant, and he just wanted to talk more about the Reliant. The first question was, what are the variants considerations? And he says, they designed the interior which can be sort of easily swappable. It's closed off between the cockpit and the rear, so they can just swap them in and out as they see fit. Now, the most challenging aspect of the Reliant was the height space. There's just not enough room without crouching, so the final version is just slightly higher, but it's not really noticeable. But that's just so you can stand up rather than having to crouch everywhere. Now, after that, they talked about the Caterpillar as well, and one of the most interesting things about the Caterpillar is it's one of the most modular ships. Not first off, obviously it's just got to get into the hangar first, but the intention is to at least have 50% of it swappable. Also, the command module detaches, you have a tractor beam on the other side. He did mention that you may need up to 8 crew to fully run it, which is a lot more than it was originally, but we all like multiplayer. He mentioned it will sort of behave like a capital ship, as it can carry so many dragonflies that it could just be like a dragonfly hauler that, everyone starts flying out with dragonflies. That is going to be one cool shot. We'll have to see how many we can fit in when we get it into the Crusader. Final question for the Caterpillar was about the modelling challenges, and he said it's just the volume of content. There are 14 spaces that need to be modelled, and that's compared to something like the Reliant, which just has 2. So that was the biggest Caterpillar challenge, which is just basically the mass. And to wrap up, they mentioned about the Gamescom party, which is happening. Tickets are going on sale, as I say. I've got mine. They're only about 17 quid. It went concierge first, then subscribers, then everyone else. It is on Friday, the 19th of August. This is separate from Gamescom, so you don't need a Gamescom ticket. Don't worry if you haven't got one. Most excited. So also this week, we saw a new portfolio post bringing us the lore behind the Kasaba clothing outlet. Plain Truth was titled The Sentinel, but I am yet to read that. And finally, Bug Smashers was back with episode 29, where Mark shows off more of the Item 2.0 system. So I just want to give a massive thank you to Josh Marks, who became my latest patron this week. Also, a big shout out to Ryan Landis, who upped his pledge. Thank you so much, guys. Big thank you to you and all my patrons. So that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you for watching, and thank you to our subscribers, plus a massive thank you to our patrons as you make this possible. If you like what we do and want to help us make it better, follow the link in the description to our Patreon page to learn more. Right, we've arrived finally, but it's now 1 o'clock, so it's started. You can see great news. We all wish him a speedy recovery, and our thoughts are with him and Alexis.